It is the last week of Season of the Wish before the final shape goes off. And of course that means last week of Pantheon, last week of lots of seasonal activities. There's lots of lasts going on, so keep in mind when you load up Destiny this week, there might be lots to do. First off, there is a buff going on for increased brave weapon drops and trophies of bravery again, even furthermore than last week. So they are really making it easy to catch up on Onslaught or at least clear out the board in that respect. Of course, this is also last week of free Bright Dust, among other things, and as usual with the last week of seasons, there is current active rep boosters across all three ritual activities. Gambit, Crucible, Vanguard, the whole deal. There isn't any double rep, and I don't think we'll be getting double Trials rep just because that was last week already. So just keep that in mind. Same thing with Trials, is going to be the last week until Final Shape. It'll at least be 2 or 3 weeks until Trials is back going, so keep that in mind if you actually want to grind out the Crucible Sweat. On the front page, there's actually a few things going on. Currently, the Hypernet Current is our active Nightfall Strike, in case you don't have the Conqueror's node to work off of. Not too terrible of a Nightfall to finish off the season with. It's a little hard in comparison to most, but it's still not so terrible. And the weapon, however, is something that's kind of terrible. It is the Izume RR4. While it can be adept and get access to adept mods, there is many other snipers for the Crucible and the PvE crowd to look for that are better than this one, especially ones you can craft and pick and choose. Aside from that, in the Crucible tab, it is momentum control with the new territories playlist. Also, just a heads up, new territories, I imagine that might be disappearing come Final Shape, as there will be usual rotations. So if you want to take part in it, do it while you can. It might be temporary. On the rotators, our current active mission is Vox Obscura for the Dead Messenger and weapons from Season of the Chosen, which the Dead Messenger I'd say is not at all worth it. However, the weapons from Season of the Chosen, the sniper among it, as well as the pulse rifle and 1 or 2 others. I know Explosive Personality is a Crucible favorite for some. There are definitely some weapons I'd recommend getting the red borders off if you can. The weekly featured raid is, of course, King's Fall, taking on Oryx. Now, this is always, meaning all challenges are active for every single encounter. Master Mode is once again available if you want to get some Adepts, and just in case, if you're not feeling up for Pantheon and its raid challenges for Adepts there, you could farm it out from basic King's Fall. And the farming dungeon, speaking of farming, is Grasp of Avarice, which means you can actually have a pretty easy Artifice farm if you need to go and hunt some good armor rolls heading into Final Shape. However, of course, it is the last week, so it might rotate weird, and it could be a long time until Grasp of Avarice comes back around. For our weekly Crota's End challenge, it is the Conservation of Energy challenge, which is the first encounter challenge. That is the first encounter challenge off the top of my head, which is basically that you can only bank 1 lamp per bank of the moat. Starting in a quick fire set of other raid challenges from most recent to least recent or oldest. Root of Nightmares is the Crossfire challenge for second encounter. Vowed Disciple is Defenses Down for third encounter challenge. Vault of Glass is Ensembles Refrain for Atheon challenge. Deepstone Crypt is Copies of Copies, which is Atrax challenge. Garden of Salvation is To the Top. And Last Wish is the Keep Out challenge, just to keep that quick and clean. Now, Dares of Eternity as well is taken Cabal and Zydron for its rotation. And from that point, that is pretty much everything. I'm going to do my best to keep everything in the reset streamlined a little bit better. So there is going to be a change up going forward just for some details. I'm probably going to put the most time into Eververse. And I'm probably going to exclude Banshee and Ada from our rotations because I think Banshee is a daily update and Ada is just shaders. Most of the better ones are from Test Eververse at this point. Speaking of which, on the front page, we have Spark of Joy from this current season. If you wanted to look a little more floral, this is one for you, thinking off the top of my head. I might have to double back around to it once things are actually loading, because it seems like Eververse is having that weird hiccup when things just don't load regardless of how long you stare at it. Speaking of which, just to check, Cleopatra, or however that's said, I remember this one being very earth tone, but again, oh, there it goes. It is very earth tone, copper, sand, if you wanted to look a little bit more of a Desert Tuscan raider. And Spark of Joy, like I said, very floral, white and pink, very clean look, although it is a bit too Barbie for my taste. And for a transmat, we have Resurrected Shadow, which I believe is supposed to be Caretaker or Shadow Legion-like spawn in. You also have the Unseen to be shown for the, I forget the name of the machine gun, Fixed Odds from the Season of the Haunted reprise. This does drop from Duality if you want the red border for it, and this does give it a classic D1 look if you didn't like the Callus theme to it. However, I personally like the Callus theme just a little bit more nowadays. And we also have the Experimental Mishap, a exotic emote, which I imagine is going to be an explosive reaction of chemicals when it finishes. It is a cute little shader. It is a cute little emote, though. It's a nice little fun thing. Then into the main store, we also have, for shaders, Calco's Finery, which is one of those ones that looks good, but it's hard to put a theme to it. Actually, now that I look at it, it might be real Robin Hood in its look. Not too shabby with my Hunter. Then Jacarina, which is lots of blacks, whites, and blue. This would look like Dead Orbit if they wanted to go a little bit softer in their color patterns. And we have Meditator, which is one of those ones that is a variety of purple and dark colors. Looks very reef, very awoken, just not very refined. Same thing with Springtide Fate, except this one is far brighter, and it does come with a metallic shine on select pieces of armor, but it is a little bit too hurting for the eyes, even more so than Spark of Joy. For the transmat options, we have the Fallen Arrival from the Season 1, which is basically popping out of a server. The Up in Smoke from Season of Dawn, Season 9, which is, you know, spawning out of a smoke cloud. And we also have the Chrysalis entrance from Season Lost, which is supposed to be pseudo Savathun Crystal Breakout. For the big ticket items, we have the Friendly Feet Dance, which is basically that. There's no better way to put it. I don't know pop culture dances, so that's just that dance. For armors, it is actually the helmets, and I should have mentioned this earlier. For the Hunters currently active, it is the Cade armor set, which is actually kind of iconic, just because obviously Cade returning for the final shape and everything. So if you want to rep your Hunter looking a little bit more Cade, that is the perfect armor set to go for it. And for a ghost shell, we have the Astrological shell, Astrologic, which is from Season of the Risen, very awoken in its look, although new awoken, not old awoken by definition. Ensemble or Assembly Stinger, which is I guess supposed to be a pseudo Erectus set look. If I'm honest, this ship doesn't look like it could fly. It doesn't look like it should survive the vacuum of space, but it is a bit of a chibi, goofy look to it. We also have Bright Nostalgia, which is, I think, supposed to be more retro arcade or toy set, which, again, it doesn't look like it should be able to fly, but somehow it does. And lastly, we have Immaterial Messenger, which is the ornament for Wishkeeper that just came out this season, obviously, since Wishkeeper just came out this season as well. Gives it a bit of a regal update if you wish to have Wishkeeper look a little bit less like stone and bone. Lastly, and always, Brain Freeze, a ghost projection to, frankly, ignore. Not at all worth the bright dust. With that, again, keep in mind, there is all active boosters. There is a lot of stuff going in the content vault. Of course, the Nightfall, Ritual, Crucible, Gambit, all of that will have rotations. Iron Banner obviously is gone, but you'll expect to see some new things, some old things no longer there, so keep that in mind. As well, with the vault, a lot of the stuff in the inventory right now, anything prior seasonal, like the old offerings from Season of the Witch, the bait and tackle, the lair keys, anything from the past season of consumables, that will disappear, so if suddenly there's some space in your vault, it was nothing worth keeping a hold on to, frankly. As well, legendary shards are again going, so spend them on raid banners or focusing, do whatever you can to burn the last of them. They will be going away. And once again with Crucible, or not with Crucible, with Eververse, the seasonal offerings all shown here in the main page, with the exception of some of the crossover stuff, which I believe holds on between seasons. Most of this will be going away and will occasionally show back up in the Eververse store for Bright Dust. However, the ready-to-buy silver versions to buy at any point, they won't be around until the season after next, depending on how they actually want to set things up, because I know episodes are probably going to last longer than seasons, traditional 3 months, possibly, and there's going to be less of them per year, so it's entirely possible that we have a refresh of these sooner than we expected, but again, keep in mind, all of this will disappear from the silver store. You'll have to get lucky and find them with Bright Dust if you wish to pick them up. On that note, my name is TheMadScorpyon. I appreciate you for watching this reset, and I will see you in the next video.